Welcome to Touchline. I'm your host, Anthony Totera, here in the OSA studios, and I'm with Tony Camacho, former FIFA referee and OSA instructor, and I'm also joined by Ed Kohl, OYSL Director of Referees. Gentlemen, welcome to Touchline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be here tonight.
It is my pleasure. Gentlemen, I invited you both here this evening so we can discuss a lot of hot issues at the grassroots level in soccer. Let's start out with something that's very important to me, Tony. We talked about this on my radio show, Sports Narrator, the Fan 590, last week, and I was very unhappy to find out that referees do not get a police search. This, to me, is a big problem because we've seen it in many other sports. The coaches get it, but referees in the OSA and the CSA, Ed, get no police searches. Let's start with you, Tony. Is it not time that we get there and get this done?
Well, I personally brought this up already with the OSA. One of the reasons we don't feel it's necessary for the referees to do a police check is referees do not have contact in close quarters with young people. We are refereeing in the open. Referees are normally in the open where we're in the public eye. There's very little chance of a referee going into a small room or into a dressing room with players or other young referees. That is the reason why we haven't gone to a police check for referees.
But nonetheless, Tony, and Ed, you can comment on this, isn't it just better to be safe than sorry, and then maybe mom and dad or coach find out later on in the media that this referee had a criminal record? Isn't it better just to get it done with?
It certainly would help. However, already amongst the referees at the younger age level, we will not, for instance, offer a child or a player a ride. You know, you try at a very young age, we already try and tell them about the separation, like this is what you're here for, and you know, be careful, because yes, it is a concern, and I personally, I wouldn't object to having a police check.
Yeah, I wouldn't object at all. Ed, let me ask you something as well. This just came to my mind now. We know that the players are never allowed to touch or lay a hand on the referee. Is the referee ever allowed in any situation to touch the player?
Well, let's say he or she shouldn't. However, it happens at times where a referee may say, "Are you okay?" Mm-hmm. Now, touching a player is actually a no-no. It's a two-way street. Mm-hmm. However, there are cases where you may, or it may happen, you know. But I think about an injury where a bleeding, for instance.
Yes, yeah.
Until the help comes on, you know, you could put a pressure on, but that's about all you do.
Right.
Try to stay away from physical contact with any player. Interesting.
Tony, how would you handle that if you ever saw a referee or gotten a report that a referee laid a hand on a youngster?
Well, referees are subject to discipline just like anybody else. If we get a report that a referee has touched a player, then of course there's a report and it goes to discipline committees, and referees get treated the same way as players do.
Gentlemen, let's first thank all these referees out there. This is a thankless job, and we don't have enough good referees out there. I want to be quite frank and honest about this. We need more referees involved, starting at the youth levels. Young boys, young girls that aspire one day to be where Tony was, where he had an opportunity to ref a world-class game, Portugal versus Denmark. That was a highlight of his career. And Ed, I'm sure that you have a highlight in your career, and we'll get to that before we let you go. But having said that, in today's world of referees, Tony, I notice especially a lot of referees have swagger, have attitude, and feel that they are the show, the event. And I think this is a problem, and this is where the friction becomes between referees, coaches, and even parents. How do we go about teaching these young referees that they are not the event, they are not the show, they are there to help and call the game properly?
Well, this is our job as instructors of young referees, is to make them understand they are not the show. People do not go to games to watch referees, and referees need to understand that. There is a lot of good referees out there, and there's a lot of referees that have an attitude, and we need to work with those referees who have an attitude. Now, if the clubs or the coaches don't let us know of what's going on the fields, we can't possibly be at all the fields to see what's going on. So it's up to the clubs to let the district, the clubs, the OSA know of what's going on.
And how do you go about teaching and helping the youngsters that are at the OYSL level, that are refereeing a high intense game, maybe a semifinal, a championship game, that they've got to get rid of the swagger, they've got to get rid of the attitude, that the kids are already under pressure to perform. They don't need to make it even worse by them performing and giving out card after card after card. How do you handle this?
Well, we start already before they make it to the OYSL. You know, at the entry level, we go and see referees and we talk to them. And the one thing what comes across, we have to bring across to them is, as Tony says, you are not the show. You know, if you bring the attention to yourself, and we notice it quite quickly, and we have a word with them and says, look, you know, like, we are there to serve the game. You know, we are not.
Yeah, but let me ask you this, Ed. When a coach makes a report, maybe at the end of the game, win or lose, that they feel that that referee was making a lot of calls that weren't justified, even let's say in a win, do you take those comments and those words serious? Do you talk to that referee? Do you talk to the coach? Or do you just brush it off and say, no, we're going to protect and defend our referee at all costs? How do you go about that?
We absolutely do not brush it off or sweep it under the carpet. In the OYSL, I have a policy, or we have a policy, that if a written complaint comes in, it comes to me, I will have to answer, and I want to answer.
Good.
What we look at now is this sour grapes, or is there justification?
Good point.
At times, I go to many of the games, just sit there, not with my OYSL jacket, just sit there and observe. And this is where we try to catch. Or if we find there was a report, we will. Usually I talk to my referee assigner in that area and says, look, I had some concerns. He knows that the person possibly better than I do.
I enjoy that you said that, Ed. Did you go to watch games without any logo of the OYSL, quietly by yourself, without anyone knowing? Because mom and dad, a lot of times, and even coaches, probably don't understand that you do this. They think that, you know what, no one is really watching the referee and the way he's done this game. But you are going to games, which is good.
And as I said, when I go there, I may have my OYSL jacket, but I have it over my arm or sit on it, because there may be a chance that I have to go to the bench after the game and put my jacket on, because the coach may not know me and say, and who the heck are you coming and tell me? You know?
Smart.
So this is the way we try to prevent it. And it will get around pretty quickly. If we get reports of the same referee, it raises a flag, and that's when we go very quietly to a game and take a look.
Very smart. I like that. Tony, let me ask you this. Did you like to comment on that?
I just like to pick up on Ed's comment. That's something that a lot of clubs, a lot of coaches don't know, is the amount of time that we spend out there in different areas, different regions, looking at the referees. So I may go to Durham or Barrie. Nobody knows who I am, but I'm there looking at the young referees in their area. And then when I come back to the OSA, then I have a report on different referees that I've seen. And this is something that it's not known, that we spend a lot of time on the soccer pitches, not necessarily at the high levels, but just at the grassroots, looking at referees to see where we can help.
And now it is known, and that's why mom and dad want to hear these things, and the coaches out there, that you are out there doing your job and you're doing it properly. Tony, I've got to ask you something. A lot of times I've seen this over the years, and it breaks my heart, and I don't like to see it. Ed will see a young woman referee refereeing a boys' game, whatever the age might be, 14, 15, 16, and you start hearing comments that aren't right. You start seeing players and coaches saying things that are stupid and not right. Why, first of all, would you put a young lady in a position to ref a boys' game? Do you think that she can handle it? Or do you think it is important for her to ref a boys' game? And would you get a young man, to ref a girls' game?
Well, there's two answers to that question. I would like to think that no assigner would put a girl into a boys' game if she was not ready to referee, because that's disaster waiting to happen. We'd like to see a female official doing any game, because I mean, the female soccer is coming a long way.
Yes, sir.
But the boys' game is still a tougher game than the female game. So we'd like to put our female officials into the boys' games just to see how they can handle. But I don't think, at least from my point of view, that anybody puts a female referee into a game that she may not be able to handle. If I'm not 100% satisfied that she can handle that game, she would not be appointed to a game.
What about the young man refereeing a high-level women's game? Would you put that young man in there if he's ready?
Absolutely, absolutely. From the games that I assign, from the games that I'm responsible for, the young referees, they only go into the middle to referee a game when I feel that they're ready to do so. And because I can't be all over the province,
right,
I have people like Ed that take over some parts of the province, and he's responsible to let me know that A, B, or C is ready to come in and referee a high-level game.
Ed, the game of soccer is simple. It's a very simple game. It's a beautiful game. But when you put a young woman in to referee a high-stakes young boys game, under 16, under 15, let's say, is it fair to both teams because maybe this young woman hasn't reffed a lot of high-stakes games at the boys' level to put her in that position, even if she is ready, because you know the criticism that's going to come?
Well, when we assign a female referee to a male game, and be it under 16, in the OYSL, under 16 and up becomes very competitive. So you get to be sure that person, we will not put a person there unless we have seen it. And what Tony already mentioned, there is correlation between us. Tony sometimes says to me, do you know any good assistants? I see him coming up to the OYSL level. Tony's level is the next step.
Right.
And there is this cooperation that, or Tony may ask me, look, I'm thinking of putting so-and-so.
What is your opinion? What is your thoughts?
Do you think he or she is ready for that? And this is where and people do not know that we work very close, although...
Well, this is good to know, and people now know that this is good relationship, this is good camaraderie, Ed, you and Tony have, that you can work together for the betterment of the game. Ed, I'm going to start with you on this question. A lot of times the parents, when they're watching a game, they're all on one sideline. The coaches are on the other side with the players. We have linesmen, lineswomen today. And
assistants, we call them today.
Assistants, I'm sorry, it has changed the language. Assistants.
Assistant referees.
Assistant referees. And these assistant referees, Ed and Tony, are right close with the parents. And many times the parents will get vocal on maybe a call that was missed. Many times the parents will get upset because they're not running up and down like they should, which is another issue that I have to take up with you. How far do you let the comments and the abuse go on at that person, at the assistant there, before they have to be cautioned to parents and say, look, next time you're out?
At the lower level, it starts off with us trying, the assistants, try to, don't get involved and try to ignore. As they mature, it can become very difficult at times, but there is also that communication between the assistants and the referee. And they are told, if you can't take much anymore, or you feel you had enough, don't turn around and say, I had enough of this. The person in the middle, who's usually a more experienced referee, there is a signal, will you come over please, I'm having a problem. And usually the referee deals with the coaching staff and tell them, calm your parents down and get them back. So that's interesting. Tony, how would you go about handling that? And not only that, maybe is it time that we do something that the parents have to be maybe 30 feet back, 40 feet back? I don't know, maybe you would know better, so that this way they can leave the job to the assistants alone.
Well, in an ideal world, the parents should be at least 15, 20 feet away from the touchline. We know that's not going to happen.
That will never happen. You know that.
The idea that what we teach our young assistant referees is that keep reminding the parents that they need to be away from the touchline so they can do their jobs. And as Ed explained, we train the referees to take as much as they can, and once they reach the point that they had enough, then they communicate with the referee, and then that parent has to go. And then the club deals with the parents.
But when is enough, Ed and Tony? When a swear word is when some comments that are very crude and rude, when is enough?
I mean, obviously, if there are racial comments or something personal said to the assistant referee, that has to stop immediately. But the tolerance level, it's an individual thing with each referee.
Ed?
The other thing what happens quite often is that when the assistant asks the referee to come over, sometimes the assistant says, look, this person has to go. You know, it doesn't even, it tells the referee. The referee is the one who tells that parent or the coaches. But at the younger level, we try to deal with the coaches. And it starts off when you come to the game, introduce yourself, tell them who you are.
That is a great point.
Try to establish some kind of a relationship. Like, I am human, you are human. You know, and
I love that comment, Ed. Sorry to interrupt, but you're human, we're human. Introduce yourself. I've yet to see that from any young refs at all the games I've been to. Two of my boys, a ref walking up and saying, hello, how are you, how's it going? I haven't seen that, Tony, very often. Maybe a couple times here and there, but not enough. I'm going to start with you on this issue, Ed. This is a delicate issue. And Tony, then we'll come to you. Parents today are getting upset at referees in many instances over these things. Let's be honest. Referees and assistants are getting paid. They're getting paid, not a lot, but they still are getting paid, and it is money. It is cash money. What I see a lot of times, Tony and Ed, is a lot of times these referees and assistants, they're not in proper shape, and they shouldn't be out there. And for my money, if you're going to be taking hard-earned money from parents, coaches, clubs, teams, you need to be in shape. Let's call a spade and be honest, Ed.
Absolutely. It's a fair comment, because after all, you get paid for a service.
That's right.
And you should deliver that service. There is a personal pride in this. Like, if you're not ready for this, I have been refereeing for many years. I'm to the age, you know, if you were to ask me, can you step on the line and be the assistant just to help us out, I would decline, because I do not do a service. And we would like these people, and we tell them very often, look, you know, you collect good money, you should give good service.
Ed, but you tell them, but you're not pulling them from games or important situations. This is where the OYSL and Tony, you as well, should step up to the plate, Tony, and Ed, and the leagues out there and say, look, unless you're in shape and properly fit to ref a game properly, we're not going to send you out there. This is where the parents and the coaches get upset and get very heated when they see things like this.
I would love that if the OSA would come to me and say, you now have the power for 12 months to take the referees who you feel can't do a proper job and exclude them from the list. That is easier said than done. We're in a country that age discrimination it's not tolerated. B, we have a number of games to be played, and then these referees are needed simply based on the number of games that are available. The biggest problem that in my own opinion, in this province, is that we have way too many games going on and not enough officials.
I agree with you there, but I'm going to stop you there, and then I want your answer on this, and you as well, Ed. My concern is solely on the referee that maybe is in proper shape. And we've seen in the GTA the humidity, and the hot days in the summer could get up to 40, 39, 40, and it's very, very hot. What if this individual, female or male, you know, something tragic could happen because they're not in proper shape or you know, hydrated properly with liquids? Then what?
Then we have a major issue. We have insurance issues. I'm not sure how that will work. The biggest thing is that an individual should know when you're in shape to go out and referee. I see referees doing 2 and 3 games a day, and they're not even in shape to do 1. There's nothing that the OSA can do. They're certified. All these people, from regional and provincial and nationals, they all do 1 fitness test a year. So they pass the fitness test to achieve their status. If you're a district referee, you don't have to do a fitness test. Hopefully that'll change soon. And once you get your status, and these leagues keep calling, they just go out and they referee, and there's not very much that we can do.
Ed, the players, the coaches, the parents demand better. Their kids have to get in shape to play the game. The coaches have to be mentally sharp and train their kids to keep in shape. Why aren't the refs doing the same?
Well, let me just tell you that at the grassroots level, we are rating referees. Not only are they a provincial or district referee, they are rated. And so certain rates, be it whatever the number is, 6 or 7, although they have a title, they are a regional referee, they are rated. But at times, it's a matter of supply and demand. And people end up doing games where they shouldn't be. And this is a problem we have, and it is...
But then you have to take care of that problem, Ed. You have to make sure that if this is a problem, you at the OYSL, you, Tony, at your level, have to take care of this problem, because I've heard you both say it's a problem. And then if it is a problem, this is where then the parents get heated, the coaches get heated, and clubs get upset because the referees aren't the way they should be at their level.
Well, it is a big problem, but I don't think it's a problem at my level.
Okay.
Because at my level, these guys have to do 2 fitness tests a year.
Beautiful.
So these guys are fit, and when they're not fit, we pull them out. At my level, that is not a problem. Now, once you start going below, and even to be honest, the OYSL requires a certain level of official, they don't get it because they're not available.
And a lot of times we see this, you know, we're all human. Coaches come late to games, kids come late, it happens. But we seem, a lot of times, I've seen it with my own eyes, referees come late to games. It's unacceptable, Ed, because, look, mom and dad are rushing from work to get there on time to get little Johnny, little Susie to play that game, and so is the coach. A lot of times we get the excuses from the refs, Tony and Ed, I couldn't find the place. I'm sorry, I ran behind. But that's unacceptable, especially, Ed, when the change in time comes and it gets darker and darker, and then that field doesn't have lights, then where's that ref?
Absolutely, and you know something, it is unfortunately, there are always bad apples in every barrel. And what is happening is that at times, I have had coaches come to me, I was as an assessor at the game, and he says to me, oh, is the referee being assessed tonight? And he says, yes, how did you know? Well, he says, he was here 15 minutes before kickoff. He never is on time, but tonight he was checking the nets. So this is what they know when somebody's in the stand, but we want them to do this when nobody is in the stand, or just parents in the stands. So, yeah, when you say about the problem, we are trying to deal with it, but at the level where Tony is at, they have graduated from OYSL or wherever they are to Tony's. They already know now their expectations, because you do that once to Tony and you're done. If they do it to me, I need somebody on that field, and I may have to, not me, but my assigner, may have to grab somebody.
Because isn't it then a reflection on you, and you, Tony, looks bad on you and Tony as well, and this is not good for you. Let's change pages here, and going on the word pages, and I see a lot of time, Ed, especially at your level, my kids' levels, these books being checked before the games. I don't understand all the logistics of these books, but to me, it's quite annoying, and I'll tell you why, Ed. If a coach has to really stoop down to the level to play a player that is not that age or suspended or whatever, shame on the coach. This is where a lot of time is wasted. How do we go about dealing with this problem?
Now, certain league rules demand a card check, and it's really very simple. You, as coach of the red team, you have your cards and your books, and I have mine, and we interchange. The problem, what you're getting is sometimes you step up and they say, oh, I know you, I don't need to check. And then you find out there was a player who was not eligible, and now the problem starts.
Yeah, but like I said, Ed, and I agree with you, and I feel sorry for the refs in that situation, because it's shame on the coaches if they're going to stoop to that level to do something like that at the kids' level. That's unacceptable. Tony, as an OSA instructor, what are you doing today, this year, different that you wouldn't have done 5, 6 years ago to help out these referees? And then I'll ask Ed as well. Are we training these referees? Are we testing them on a month-to-month basis, semi-yearly basis, so that they're sharp, that they're where they should be?
We're at this time we're not testing referees every year. We are in the process of doing so. CSA now tests assessors on a yearly basis, and referees, national referees, get a test every year. Provincial referees, hopefully, will start getting tested every year, and all the way down the line. I totally agree that some sort of online exam needs to be done from the district to the national level, all the way up. Whether you're a referee, instructor, or an assessor, everybody needs to be on the same page. What we're doing now that we didn't do 5 years ago, I think we're spending a lot more time with the younger referees, and we're spending a lot more time giving the districts more tools for them to work with their referees.
What tools are you giving them?
The education sessions, the materials that we use at the national levels, we are now sharing that with the districts. So everybody gets trained the same way, whether you're at this level or down at this level.
And he mentioned tools. I gave you an example before we started taping. How do you teach a young referee a situation where a parent or a coach, might come right up to them, or even after the game in the parking lot, maybe, knock on wood, God forbid, assault them? How do you train this? How do you teach them this? Because do you take them out? Do you show them? Maybe do you reenact it? How do you go about it?
Well, one of the deterrents what we have is if a team official, a coach, is abusive to a referee, this will be reported and the league will deal with it. Parents are or can be a problem because some parents, you can't identify them. They are not registered they're not registered with the OSA. So how do you deal with them? So
good point. It's a good point.
So the league may take over, but the OSA cannot deal with a non-registrant.
Yeah, it's a good point. Ed, what I loved watching was when Howard Webb, Mr. Collina from Italy, these are the type of referees I loved watching. Why? Because they talked to the players. They explained why the foul was done. They were almost, it was almost like a friend that they would tell them. They didn't want to call it, but they had to, but they explained it. How do we go about training these young referees today to explain, especially to the younger levels, let's say from 14 down, this was the mistake, young man, young girl, don't do it again?
This is a repetitive thing. You can stand in front of a class, Tony may be there and may give them some pointers, and it may go in here and out there. However, what does happen is that when we know there is a problem, Tony and I are always open to get a phone call and say, look, I had a problem. Help me, or what should I have done? That happens quite often. People do not know that, but young referees, it may not be us, they may go to their DRC, the district referee coordinator. There are people there, but young people, some of them do not open up easily,
I agree, that's a great point. Tony, before we let you go, and before we let you go, Ed, give some pointers out there. If there's a young man, a young girl that's maybe 14, 15, 16, like the special guest that we're coming up next, your son Mitchell that we're going to talk to, how do you go about convincing them that it is something that can be done with a joy, with a passion, getting into refereeing like you did?
Well, the only thing I can say to the young referees is if you've got the passion to referee, officiating is a great way to make friends. You can get to know many people across this country that otherwise you wouldn't get a chance to meet. If you have that passion, work with your district referee coordinator. Try and get as many games as you possibly can. Then eventually you're going to make your way into the regional program and to the provincial program. And then we here at the OSA, we will give you all the tools for you to succeed. We now have the advanced referee training for provincial referees that's doing a wonderful job as far as I'm concerned for the provincial referees, and hopefully within the next year or two we'll have the same program for regional referees. So we're going down, we've started at the provincial level, we want to go down to the regional level and get better, and that's our goal. To make referees better. And
that's a great point. Where do we start this young referee, Tony? At the minis, at the mini soccer, at the house? Tell us where they should start.
You should start at mini soccer because that'll give you an opportunity to run around on the field. There's not a lot of pressure, supposedly. There's not a lot of pressure to referee those mini soccer games, and then graduate on to the house league games. Now, it's important that the club head referee recognizes the talent of these referees and give the referees some challenging games for them to get better. Because if you have a referee that is a good referee, but he's refereeing 10, 11-year-olds, he's not going to get better. He's going to get bored and he's going to walk away. So it's very important for the club head referee to take the time and go out, go around the field, have a look at these referees, see what's going on, and if some areas your club head referee may be a parent, your club head referee may be someone that it's not very good at officiating, Well, ask the OSA, ask your district to have an instructor or an assessor come out and have a look at these referees. Have one of your provincial referees come out to your own house league games and talk to the young referees. That's how you're going to get them interested.
Great points, Tony. Ed, before we let you go, at the OYSL level, a lot of teams travel all over the province, north, south, east, west. The biggest complaint I've heard from a lot of parents is, unfortunately, in the GTA, we're blessed. We can call any refs from any part of the GTA. But let's say in North Bay, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Ottawa, the teams from the GTA that might travel out there, or vice versa, the teams that travel from there over here, it's that same referee that they've seen over and over and over again. Do you change it up a bit? Would you send a referee from, let's say, a Toronto or Vaughan out to Ottawa to ref a game and a ref from Ottawa here? I know that you're going to probably tell me money is the biggest issue, but do you not think that we should try this? Because the teams deserve a little bit of a different face in a referee as well.
They absolutely do. Now, I am not so much worried about Ottawa. They are
top notch.
They have good referees. However, when you go to the outlying areas, the smaller communities, all of a sudden you are limited to what you can get. When I say what you can get, I mean the level of referees and what we need to do there. OYSL does not pay to go referee there. Our referees travel not as much as the teams. The problem is, again, comes back to supply and demand. Why do I travel, for instance, from Oakville and go to Pickering to do a game where I can stay in Oakville and do another game much lower with more money?
But I know, but I disagree, because the players and the coaches and the clubs and teams deserve it. They deserve
absolutely
the quality of the refereeing, Tony. They deserve it, and they deserve that because everyone is paying into it, and everyone deserves a different flavor, a different referee. Not always that same referee when you go to that area.
Yeah, and if we haven't got no more than what we have there, it's a different.
But you're right.
The assigners. We do not want the same referee what you had this week and you come next week and the week after. Familiarity breeds contempt. You don't want that. The coaches don't want it. We don't want it. We try to mix it, but it's a challenge.
Great job. Ed Kohl, thank you for joining us on Touchline. You were very passionate about refereeing. Thank you for all the hours you've put in, and keep it up. Tony Camacho, it's been a pleasure. You are a person that is very passionate and enjoys doing what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on Touchline. This was a special on refereeing. Hope you enjoyed it. Once again, here on Touchline.